Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Memorial Day weekend. Welcome into a new edition of the Batter Up podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood here on the Sports Insanity Network. Mike and Dan with you. Dan, good morning. How are you?
Hey, man, I can't be better. Um, wish it didn't rain yesterday because it rained a little bit, but yeah, no, it's looking nice outside, and hopefully the rest of the Memorial Day weekend will be um beautiful, and we can watch some baseball.
Yeah. Usually Memorial Day is the first time people say you could look at the standings and
Yeah.
that's the first time.
And of course, see, just to see where teams are at, not necessarily the playoffs, but
Yeah, it's too early to think about playoffs unless you root for certain teams who we may or may not discuss later. Now, usually there's three of us in the room discussing this, but somebody's off today. So shout out to the old ops guy. It is his birthday today.
happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday. You are one step closer to the old folks' home.
But by the way he walks nowadays, it's probably not that time, you know?
Uh, he'll be back next week. So happy birthday, Mark.
Yeah,
But
he deserves his time off, enjoy time with your family, enjoy some cake, and you better get some good, nice golden vanilla cake. That,
mm,
that's my personal favorite. You know,
I'm a big chocolate cake guy.
the chocolate isn't bad either.
Can't go wrong. All right. Let's dive right in. We start with some news about the automatic strike zone that's been discussed in Major League Baseball. Um, MLB will not adopt robot umpires to call balls and strikes by next season, says
Yeah.
Rob Manfred. In this article by Ian Castleberry of Yahoo Sports, Major League Baseball will not implement an automated ball strike system for home plate umpires by the 2025 season, according to Manfred. So called robot umpires were among several topics addressed by the MLB commissioner during a news conference following an owners' meeting on Thursday, according to the AP. So we'll dive through the article a little bit, but Dan, your overall reaction to no automated ball strike system coming in as of next year.
Look, we know it's eventually going to happen because baseball, whenever they test things, it's to implement them into the game.
Mm-hmm.
So we know it's going to happen eventually, but it's that they're not ready to implement this.
Yeah.
So that is why they made the call uh today or whenever it was to not implement it for next season. And if I'm being real with you, it's not a step back. We'll talk more about human umpires in a little bit, because we know that they make the worst calls on the planet. But there's that interaction factor you can have with the human umpires that makes this game more enjoyable, more believable, and better to watch overall. Like you can't argue with a computer, you know? Like to me it's just silly. Now, of course, with 21st century technology, you'd be crazy not to implement this in the future. But still, like for right now, let's keep it a little old school. Let's have human interactions, and let's talk about, possible controversies down the road.
Yeah. Watching the Met game yesterday, and there were a couple of calls made by CB Buckner that the Mets weren't happy with. It was like, you know what? I'm gonna miss this when the umpires coming because you got the Mets players yell from the dugout, it's not a strike, and then it's just so it gets you fired up when you see the arguments and By the way, if you want to see some great ejection videos, go to YouTube because some of them are fantastic. But
Mhm.
you're right. There is a such a good part to the human element. And we know the umpires aren't perfect. That's why you implemented replay in the first place. Now, replay system sucks, but balls and strikes, different story. The robotic umpires aren't a necessity yet. The article goes on. Manfred explained the automated ball strike system hasn't developed as MLB would prefer since using them in the minors since 2019. Quote, we have some technical issues, said Manfred. We haven't made as much progress in the minor leagues this year as we sort of hoped at this point. I think it's becoming more and more likely that this will not be a go for 25. Uh, Manfred went on to explain, hold on, I lost my spot, that there's a growing sentiment among the players that the automated ball and strike calls should first be implemented through a challenge system, which would still require umpires to rule on calls behind the plate and continue to reward catchers who are good at pitch framing.
See, that's actually not a bad thing. That's what they do in tennis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have the tennis has the official, they make the initial ruling, and then there's a challenge. And I know they've been trying that too in the minor leagues. The
Mm-hmm.
challenge system where it's a computer challenge, and then you see like a simulation of the pitch. And I think that's perfect. Look, I think you should have it both ways. I like the human element, but I also understand that you have to have some type of computer element as well. They're implementing this in football.
Yeah.
In preseason, those chains in the first down and stuff.
Yeah.
They're they're they're
They're
they're getting
putting
rid of that.
something in the ball or
Yeah,
something.
they're gonna get rid of that, to determine what's the first down, what's not. So eventually you're gonna have to do it. It's how you implement it. Do you want to go fully computerized? I think that'd be terrible. Because they'll be programmed to be very precise, which is not a good way to think of things.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely having like that computer as like a back as like that last,
Something to lean on.
yeah, exactly, that last resort. Hey, look, just to be sure, am I right?
I think the other thing it's got to do is you got to limit it per plate appearance. Maybe there's one challenge per plate appearance.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how they go about this stuff. That's going to be a real question as well. But you're right in the sense of I think soccer has it too with the VAR for the offside stuff if they miss that. But you're right, having that as a backdrop for to help the umpires as a crutch on
Yeah.
balls and strikes, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. The next thing I would like to see them implemented on, and I don't know if it's possible, would be the check swing.
Mhm.
That would be the big
I
one for
agree.
me because I think the way it goes now, no one knows what a check swing is.
I mean, and also, from the umpire's vantage point, it could, I mean, we've seen it many times that, there are times where the batter does check a swing, but the umpire says, no, he went around.
Yeah. Or he went around, the umpire go, no, no, he didn't. And sometimes it's in a big spot,
Yeah.
and
Sometimes the home plate umpire says, no, 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 you went around.
yeah.
So there's so many ways that you can do this. You have to have some type of real human umpire on the field. You have to. You can't have it fully automated. Um, but I'm glad that baseball is considering it, but I know it's not ready yet. and
Well,
and
Manfred goes
implementing
on.
it
One of
will
the
be state in
technical issues
25.
that the MLB and Players Association are trying to work out is the shape of the automatic strike zone, which I kind of agree with this because we get those big boxes on
Exactly.
TV
Yeah.
and listen, umpire discretion is, but there are plays where ball winds up not in the box. It's a strike. So, what is the true definition of the strike zone? I
Right.
think that is something they have to figure out.
And something that we've been arguing for a long time, does the strike zone change by how tall a player is? You know,
Right.
because we see a lot of people like an Aaron Judge who is, 6'7",
Mm.
and you have a bunch of low strikes. The reason why you have a bunch of low strikes because the strike zone is all the way down there and Judge is all the way up there, you know. But
Oh
the
no,
strike
and
zone
someone
doesn't
like
change.
Jose Altuve too on the other spectrum,
Yeah,
who's 5'7", 5'8", or whatever he is. You know that high pitch. If it's borderline, how does he get to it? You know.
right. So do they implement a system where the strike zone changes per the player's height? Of course, you don't want to do that because whatever, but at the same time, it's like trying to be fair to the batter.
No. These I think one of the things that's really hurt the strike zone isn't just the boxes on our TV, but if you go and watch the old ESPN games, they when they developed the little K zone thing and it shows the pitches off the plate and the animations and stuff. I really think that hurt the strike zone as well because people are watching that going, it's not a strike. And this has become such an issue now that every local broadcast has the little box thing, which in tune kind of hurts the umpires in the sense of, well, that this guy sucks. He's not getting anything right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not that simple though, because there are times where the ball actually goes into the zone, but then lands low.
Right.
So it, it's very
It's a
fluky.
double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Um, and then just to close out, Manfred said, quote, originally we thought everybody was going to be wholeheartedly in favor of the idea if you could get it right every single time. That's a great idea. One thing we've learned in these meetings is the players feel there could be other effects on the game that would be negative if you use it full blown, quote, quote. So it seems like the players are very much in favor, not just of the automated strike zone, but they want to keep some human element here with the umpires.
It's certainly necessary, in my opinion. Um, but they'd be crazy not to work in some computers because of the technology that we do have. We should definitely take advantage. So there's a lot to it, but I know baseball knows they ain't ready yet. So that's why I think it's a good call. And also just, again, like I said, another year where we get to argue over controversial calls and um, I mean, this is where I miss Lou Piniella, man. Lou Piniella, shout out to you. You really made arguing with the umpires like front row seat ticket, main event type of things because he really got into the umpires so much. Shout out to
Oh,
you, Lou. I hope you're doing well, man.
think about back in the day. You had a Lou Piniella, a Bobby Cox
Mhm.
who would argue. Gotten away from it a little bit. I did see the other night Bryce Harper get ejected. He didn't really say much, but
Yeah.
I was watching like, you know what? This is what's going to be missed when these robotic umps come in, man. But speaking of technology and getting it right, I
Mhm.
don't know, Dan, if you saw the ending to the Orioles White Sox game on Thursday night.
Mhm.
If you did not watch it, there was a pop up on the infield by the White Sox I believe the go-ahead run was at the plate.
The
Uh,
go-ahead run was at the play. It was Benintendi.
Ben,
Um,
yeah, Benintendi.
so yeah, he popped it up. There's runners on first and second with one out,
Mhm.
and pop up happens. Infield flies in effect. That's correctly called, at least. Um, Gunnar Henderson coming in, and he made the catch. Of course, it's already out. Doesn't matter what Gunnar Henderson
Yeah,
does. Um, Now, of course, the runners can go at their own discretion and all that stuff because the infield fly is there to protect the base runner and make sure that the infielders don't do some crazy bullshit. Now, then we have some little stupid umpiring going on, Rifkin.
yeah. The call at second base, the I actually believe it was third base umpire called interference on the runner at second base, which means he impeded Henderson's progress to catch the ball.
Yeah,
Which,
if you
which
look
by the way, if
at
the infield fly is called, which it was,
Mhm.
Henderson doesn't even have to catch the ball.
Yeah.
And if you go back and watch, there's no contact made, or if there
It,
is, it's very subtle. The
yeah,
base runner
if
is
there
going
was,
back to the base.
If there was, Rifkin, it's because Gunnar Henderson has to go around the Andrew Vaughn, the second base runner, because he's trying to get to the ball. I mean, look, he didn't really make contact. That was Gunnar Henderson's decision to go around the base runner. You
And by
know,
the way, I do want
it
to say
wasn't
that
even that
it's
slight of
not
contact.
Gunnar Henderson's fault either. The umpire missed this call. This
Yeah,
was just generally just a bad job
yeah.
because
It's not interference. It's not a good call. Um, but apparently you don't have to actually hit the guy. You just
you
have
just got
to,
to impede the
yeah,
progress of
yeah, it's
him.
to hinder Henderson's path to the ball, which of course was not a problem because he got to the ball anyway, easily, my ad. So yeah, the third base umpire, Junior Valentine, who again, who is one of the worst out there. He makes terrible calls all the time. But he made that call, and of course, Pedro Grifol, the White Sox manager, is like, "What the hell?" And obviously, very livid because that is a double play, and the game was over.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst ways to end a baseball game. You can't end a baseball game that way.
Especially with the go ahead or the winning run because it's ninth inning coming up to the plate. You can't end it that way. Go listen to the White Sox broadcast about it
Yeah,
because they go off on the
as they
subject
do.
matter.
Yeah.
But according to Jesse Rogers of ESPN, the league reached out to the White Sox for a source, essentially told them the obstruction call to end the game should not have been made. There is some discretion there.
Yeah, so essentially what they're saying is that it's a judgment call because
Mm-hmm.
it's because of a rule, a slight change to I believe it was the infield fly rule, and then of course you're adding the interference rule to it, where they said that the infielder, if the infielder has a easy chance to make the catch or make the play, um, that the infield fly rule can go as planned. If not, then the umpires can call interference if they see it. That's what Junior Valentine said. He said, "Okay, well, I saw interference and I had to call it." Well, baseball came back. I think the crew chief was Adrian Johnson, I believe. He also came out and said that the rule was properly implemented and stuff. But then baseball comes out and says, "Well, wait a second, that's not true. Yes, the rule's there, but the call shouldn't have been made because there was nothing to call."
And and look, this isn't going to affect the White Sox in any way, shape, or form because they're not going to be a playoff team. But you can't take that moment away from
Yeah.
you. You can't give away that opportunity. And you're right in the sense of the it's a judgment call, it's discretion, it's this. At some point for umpires, and we could tie this kind of in with the strike zone stuff as well if we wanted to, have feel for the game. Have a
Exactly.
feel.
And stop inserting yourself and trying to, you know, become some big time figure across baseball, because that's literally what it was. That was Junior Valentine inserting himself into the game when he didn't have to. That's what it was.
And I actually love the quote from Brandon Hyde here on this Yahoo article. Brandon Hyde goes, I quote after the game, "I feel like we escaped there." Like, he's not going to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, we knocked out of the park." You gave up 4 runs in the ninth and an opportunity for the White Sox to win the game. You did escape,
Mm.
and for the White Sox, things just go from bad to worse. But have some feel for the game. There was no real attempt. By the way, if the base runner, it says here it's Andrew Vaughn, if the ball drops, he has the ability to go to third, even though the infield fly rule is called. But he needs a path to go through, because if he goes around Gunnar Henderson, you're going to call him out of the baseline.
Yeah.
That's the other part. So you're in a lose-lose situation if you're the base runner.
But my biggest thing, Rifkin, is why are we punishing the base runner for trying to go back to the bag?
No idea. No idea.
You know, I just have a problem with that. And of course, interference doesn't matter whether you intended on interfering or not. If it is interference, you're going to call interference. But like, come on now, we have the parts of these rules have to change, man, because there's just no reason for an out to be called there. There was barely any contact, if any. I didn't see any
I
contact.
didn't see contact.
But if there was, it's because Gunnar Henderson decided on his own to go around the base runner, Andrew Vaughn.
And look, we're also not pointing the finger at Gunnar Henderson, because he's playing to the last out. He's not looking for the infield fly call. He's looking to catch the pop up. But
right.
This is strictly on Junior Valentine and the inability,
yeah,
to have a feel for the game.
Yeah, and just the idea of calling a double play like that, like, come on, like that just sucks the life out of the damn field. Like,
Yeah,
let the moment happen.
absolutely.
You know,
Give the White Sox fans something to cheer about. I mean, they need something.
yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe a 2-out rally. Maybe they would have tied the game. I don't know.
No one knows. And by
But
the way, that win or loss, depending on how you view for Baltimore, that could have an impact on them in the playoff race.
Yeah.
So, again, umpires, you just got to have feel for the game. All right. We're going to get off the subject of umpires for a minute, for a bit, actually. We're going to go talk about a guy on Dan's team, the New York Yankees, for a minute, because Juan Soto made headlines last week. Mark and I had the conversation about Soto being open to signing in an extension in the season. And then on Friday back in San Diego, Juan Soto said this. This is from Bob Nightingale. Juan Soto says he's wide open to listening to prospective teams bidding for his free agent services. Quote, "We ain't closing the doors on anybody," close quote. So this went really quickly from, "I am willing to sign an extension in season 2. Yeah, I'm testing the market, guys."
You want to know why though? You know what Hal Steinbrenner did?
I heard him say something about cut payroll.
Yeah, no, he said that the high payroll is unsustainable. So that's why. You know, it's like look, I think Hal Steinbrenner made the right call signing Judge. And of course Aaron Judge, was the real reason why Juan Soto's here. Because Brian Cashman, Brian Cashman, they make those moves without the
Seal
any
of approval.
seal approval from any of his current players. Brian Cashman is also a cheap ass, so he'll do anything to cut costs and everything. Listening to his boss. But for Hal Steinbrenner to come out and say, you know what, I don't know if we could continue paying these players a bunch of money on our team, then you're gonna tip off a lot of these players, you know? And guys like Juan Soto, who obviously knows he deserves every penny that he wants to get, he's gonna
Mhm.
be like, okay, well then you don't think it's sustainable, then I'm gonna go somewhere where it is sustainable.
The stupid part for me on how Steiner is saying this is you've already got a fan base that is ticked off. The New York Yankees haven't won a World Series in
Mhm.
15 years,
Yeah.
which by Yankee standards, long
Long.
time.
Too long.
But the other part that gets me is you want people to spend, I don't know how much a Yankee ticket is at the moment, but $50 on parking, $40 for a chicken tender
Mhm.
bucket thing. Like, it's expensive. And then on top of it, you talked about the Judge contract. All right. Garrett Cole makes over 300. Stanton still got 4 years left. The, and the contract that I still think is the killer outside of Stanton is the DJ LeMahieu contract, which,
Contract that I didn't agree with, by the way.
all because you didn't want him to go north of the border, but that's a whole nother conversation. When your last name is Steinbrenner and someone says you're going to payroll, or you don't want to have a sustained high payroll, get out of here. You ain't nothing like your daddy.
And what bothers me to my core is that that if Yankees can't give Soto something, he can easily go across town or dare I say within the division, which would be worse for us if he goes within the division.
Yeah.
Going across town's one thing, but we don't face the National League all year. You know, so yeah, it's just incredibly frustrating because we have a golden opportunity to actually win a World Series and have a core. Juan Soto's young as hell. What is he, like 25 or something? 26?
I'm double checking it right now for you.
Yeah, I forget his age. But like he's a young guy.
He'll be 26 in October.
Like, come on now.
And
We actually have a young core. Judge isn't young,
he's
but
31, I believe.
something like that. He'll be up there. But like we have a core. And we have good young players
Uh,
too.
Judge is 32, but you're right. He's part of your long term plan because of the contract.
You know, like we actually have something here that we can build off
And
of. Even if the Yankees don't win the World Series, which I think they should win the World Series given how they started. But even if the Yankees don't win the World Series, that you have other chances to win the World Series down the road. It's about winning and winning now, Rifkin.
no, I agree with you. I think the other thing you just said, and I think this is a key, how they've started. And the Yankees are playing really good baseball. The trio of Judge, Soto, and Stanton is crushing it.
Yeah.
The pitching's been phenomenal without Garrett Cole. Hal Steinbrenner just put a black cloud hanging over this team for really no reason at all.
Me and my brother always talk about this. George did not want to pass it down to his children. He wanted to pass it down to his son-in-law. But of course, his son-in-law and George's daughter got divorced, so that got him out of the organization. Um, but now he has to deal with his children running it, and Hank Steinbrenner, God rest his soul, Hal, Jessica, Jennifer, whoever the people are. They don't know. They don't know how to do this baseball business stuff, sports business stuff.
No, it's about making the almighty dollar.
Right.
And the problem is when you have a fan base, and I'm going to equivalent this kind of to football in a sense. We call the Cowboys America's team.
Right.
The New York Yankees and the Dallas Cowboys are big time national branded.
And very similar in
And
pay
neither one has won
or
in a long time.
exactly.
Now I can take these shots at the Cowboys just because it's Mark's birthday and he's not here, and I'm waiting on the text for him just saying something. But you're right, Dan. Like, there's no reason to say the words payroll in May.
Yeah.
There's no reason to say, oh, Juan Soto could say what he wants because we knew Juan Soto was going to test the market. You know how I know? He turned down $550 million from the Nationals. And then, according to John Heyman on his Bleacher Report live thing, he said Juan Soto's turned down 7 extensions over the last couple of years. So, yeah, that's the making of a guy who wants to test the market because he thinks he's worth 500, 600 million bucks.
Yeah. And someone that's really gambled on himself because he lost a lot of money over the years. He lost a lot of money. And for someone that's really, really testing everything, he has done a tremendous job really holding his own and proving to people, yeah, I'm worth that much. Come at me. And for Hal Steinbrenner to do what he did, not only does he tip off Juan Soto, like I said, he's going to make everyone else not want to come to the Yankees because they don't want to pay so much.
And
10%
you
of people
brought
want
up
to use that
something
label.
you brought up something earlier that I want to get back to because you said essentially Hal Steinbrenner left the door open to this, whether Juan Soto goes across town or somewhere else. Well, think about this for a second. If he goes across town and he signs with the Mets, Steve Cohen's taking the back pages away from the Yankees.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But the worst look of it all isn't just if Steve Cohen and the Mets were to sign. What if Juan Soto were to go to the Boston Red Sox?
Exactly. Or dare I say, the new $1 billion Baltimore Orioles.
Oh,
And
can you
you,
imagine an offseason where the Orioles wind up
oh my
re-signing
goodness
Corbin Burns
gracious.
and bringing in Soto just
Team's
because of the
ready to
new
win
owner?
now, Rifkin. They're ready to go at it. Can
Yeah.
you imagine they add Juan Soto? Oh my goodness. We're
Listen,
already deep lineup.
here's the thing I'm going to say on Soto. As long as he doesn't go to Philly or Atlanta or
Oh,
wind up a Dodger, I could care less.
but you know those teams would be after him. You know they would. They
Oh
knew,
my! I'm
especially
imagining a
Philadelphia.
Dodger lineup now with Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts,
No, don't even
Shohei, Juan Soto. Jesus Christ!
I mean, I don't know if the Phillies would get him. I don't know if they want to.
I don't know if the Braves would get in there because of Acuna and those. Oh, you could put him in left field. It's a whole nother conversation.
But, I mean, there's so many things you can do.
Fantasy Juan Soto situations next up.
We'll focus more on that in the off season.
Oh yeah,
Where me and Billy Boy are gonna like be scared to death that this guy's gonna leave. By the way, Bombers Banter is coming up soon, so please stay tuned for all that. We're gonna talk about good things in May for the Yankees.
good. Yeah, I only bring up the bad stuff like because of the Yankees.
Oh my God, Yankees are they're terrible at this business stuff. I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, you guys can print money. You don't want to pay your players. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Oh boy. All right. That's one side of New York. We're going to go to the other side despite my discretion. So, again, I'm mentioning his name like Beetlejuice here. Mark wrote an article about the Mets. I had texted him about responding to said article. You can check it out at the website www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. And he gave me the go ahead. And essentially, what the article was preaching was a little bit of patience here because David Stern just got here and he knows what he's doing.
Does he?
Well, here's the
Does he?
thing, Dan, and I am a David Stearns believer. I do believe that there is a
Well,
chance.
why though? He comes from Milwaukee. They're one of the smallest payrolls in baseball.
And this is where I'm going to get to because the Mets payroll situation, and I'm going to address something else that was about. Give me a second on that. Isn't where I'm going. The New York Mets have a problem. And the problem isn't the fact that they suck or they'll always be the Yankees' little brother or they'll always be the fourth best team in New York behind the Yankees, the Brooklyn Dodgers, and the New York Giants. The Mets' problem for me, and I go back about 2 years ago when the Atlanta Braves punched them in the mouth in September of 2022, they've never fully recovered. And I don't care who the manager is, whether it's Buck Showalter, Carlos Mendoza, Dan, myself, Bobby Cox, the Russo Lupino. I
The
could care less who the manager is.
spirit of Willie Randolph.
Dude, bring back Willie.
Can
I'm
we
a
bring
bit
back Willie Randolph?
bring back Willie.
Willie's
I'll get
got.
into Mendoza in a second.
I'll take him as my manager.
Uh, the Mets' mental state is when they get close to something. The Met fan perspective is when they get close to doing something right, it winds up blowing up in your face because you expect it. Take yesterday, for example, 2-1 going into the ninth inning against the San Francisco Giants. Carlos Mendoza decides to bring in Edwin Diaz, who had blown 3 saves in a row and 4 out of 5. And what happens? Edwin Diaz blows the save. Now, look, I am not faulting Edwin Diaz for everything. Edwin Diaz is coming off of a severe injury last year, but he has not been the same guy. I just said about an umpire have a feel for the game. I don't know if this manager has a feel for the game.
I mean, Mendoza was pushing the right buttons early on, which makes this very disappointing because it seemed like he had a clue. I mean, he was with the Yankee organization for a long time. So like it seemed like he had a clue on how to actually manage, unlike his former boss, Mr. Aaron Boone, who's terrible. Um, but he was pushing the right buttons. Now I don't know if he has a gut. I think he's relying way too much on the numbers, which frustrates me.
And the thing for me, Dan, is when Diaz has struggled, they threw him in the seventh inning Friday night. He pitched well. That was the first time he had pitched since blowing a save last week. So the days off plus one appearance, let's throw him back in. I'm okay with throwing Edwin Diaz back out there because
Yeah,
Edwin Diaz,
but
when he's on, he's the best closer in baseball.
Emotionally, he also hit rock bottom too.
Right.
But,
So that's where you have to have a feel.
yeah.
My thing on Mendoza, I don't think he has a great feel for the game. I'm absolutely done with Jeremy Hefner as my pitching coach. And I don't say that to be mean to Jeremy Hefner, and this goes back to feel for the game. He comes out to talk to the pitcher after the big moment has occurred. the Mets pitching staff walks the world. I think they're the only team over 200 walks at the moment, you know. And then there's just the fundamentals where under Buck Showalter, the fundamentals were easy for this team. They knew what they were doing. And it just feels like it's brain fart after brain fart after brain fart. And it gives you so much brain indigestion when you watch them. And it's just like, they are the bad news bears of Major League Baseball. Now, I'm going to address the roster and Mark's article in a second. The other thing I want to address was living in New York. Talk radio is a big thing.
Huge thing.
And I will not say the person's name, but somebody at WFAN said the big problem was Steve Cohen is a big problem because he has not landed that big fish superstar in free agency. And then there's a second part, which I'll get to in a minute. But what big free agent did he really miss out on? Ohtani staying on the West Coast, I don't think surprises anybody. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he offered the same contract to Dodgers. He just chose to go to LA. Aaron Judge was never leaving the Yankees. And oh, by the way, his first move as owner brought in Francisco Lindor, who at the time, superstar shortstop.
Yeah. I mean, free agency wise, we did bring Scherzer in. So
Scherzer and Verlander.
And then Verlander, they almost got Correa, but of course that fell through.
Yeah. Senga was a big free agent. Now Jury's still out because he's had 1 year and he hasn't pitched yet this year. Smart move, Kodai.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess the one free agent that because the thing is, none of those free agents, and I don't want to count Max Scherzer because Scherzer was traded and everything. I guess that the point was that none of those big free agent signings actually made a big impact, which you can argue it did because Scherzer, before he got hurt, pitched well that 22 season. But I don't know if the real impact has been really shown on the field because the Mets haven't won. So
that's a fair point.
I guess in that perspective, you can say that he really hasn't made a huge splash. But to say that he hasn't tried, I mean, come on now.
Well, and here's the other thing, and you brought up maybe the big fishes haven't panned out with the Scherzer, the Verlander. By the way, he's paid off those contracts to get pair of prospects. Again, don't know how that plays out yet because the prospects aren't up. But the low key deals have really paid off. Mark Hanna for a year and a half was a very good Met. Starling Marte, when he's healthy, is a good Met. Now he's had a little bit of an up and down year this year, but again, coming off some injuries last year. And then there's the guys he brought back. He couldn't foresee Edwin Diaz getting hurt in the World Baseball Classic after spending the money on him.
Yeah.
Brandon Nimmo being brought back, that was money well spent. Nimmo's had a really good year. But then the thing that ticked me off the most that this host said was Steve Cohen had gall to say he still believes this team is a playoff team. Well, what the hell do you want him to say? You need a reason for people to go to the ballpark May through October. We suck. By the way, it's May 26th. The Mets can. Oh, I can't believe I'm going to be an optimist on the freaking Mets now. The Mets have a chance because of the third wild card to make a run. It's early enough, but guess what? If they get basted today by the Giants, which they will, Logan Webb's pitching, he's pretty good. Then the Dodgers come to town. Although they're struggling, they're probably going to baste you too. It's a deep breath. Everything is a deep breath. Now into Mark's article. a little bit more. Mark talked about some guys they could sign up coming in free agency. One of the names was Alex Bregman. I'm not there on Bregman. Love the player. Just don't think he's a fit for the Mets at the moment. But look, the Mets are whenever you think the Mets have hit rock bottom, they sink to a new low. So everybody, it's a deep breath, and to quote Dan's quarterback, just relax.
Oh no, but don't.
But you know,
I'm good with that.
listen, it might be a long summer in Queens, actually Flushing, which they might just flush the season down the toilet.
Yeah, I mean, besides that nice little new park going around City Field that they're building, or at least planning to build, yeah, it's going to be quite the next few summers. Look, I know y'all like this David Stearns guy, and fine, to each their own. I just don't know. He hasn't won anything, and it certainly fits their identity that they haven't won anything.
I don't disagree with you. With David Stearns hasn't won. He's also never had the Steve Cohen checkbook, which I think will help. I also think when you look at certain aspects of what the Mets have, I think David Stearns knows how to put his fingerprints on it. And I'm willing to give him his opportunity. But I'll say this: here's the big one, because we all talk about the Met core and who in this Met core is go. Well, Lindor's locked up; he can't go anywhere. The Met fan really doesn't want to trade Pete Alonso, but I'll tell you the guy right now I would drop right now if I was David Stearns. I don't care what you get back for him. I'm ready to move on from the Jeff McNeil experience. And if you want to bring up Luis Angel Acuna, if you think he's ready, that'll bring in some speed to this lineup, something that it needs. And the pitchers, for the love of God, learn to hold a runner on base.
Yeah, I actually don't mind getting rid of Jeff McNeil as much as really thought he did something good. He brought at least the Mets back a little bit to relevancy.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the longest time the Mets were absolute nobodies. Um, I think we've seen the best of McNeil.
Yeah. He won the batting title and he's kind of fallen off.
Yeah.
And just back to Mendoza just for a second, then we'll jump into teams who are actually deserve to be talked about.
Yeah.
He just feels like Luis Rojas 2.0.
I don't know what the deal is. Like, is he like? Because I know this is his first year managing. Period. Um, I don't know what it is. Like, is he not reading the game right? Like, is you can't really strategize in baseball, but like, you know, what is it that he's missing? Is the
Mm-hmm.
question. Like, what is he not doing right? And the answer is I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of holes in his Met team that
They're gonna
obviously
have to figure out.
that has to be addressed. And yeah, no, right now that there's just always the incorrect decisions by Mendoza, who again start off well, and then I don't know, man, because even if you can push the right buttons early, you should be able to push the right buttons throughout the season, even if it results into losses like it has.
Mm-hmm.
But he has not done that, and it's backfired on him many times.
On the other hand, on the other side of the spectrum, teams who are playing really well right now. Let's just start with the top two in the AL Central. The Cleveland Guardians have won 8 in a row. They're 9-1 in their last 10. Jose Ramirez hit the 50 R is the first player I think to hit the 50 RBI mark. He hit it last night against the Angels. The Guardians are rolling,
Mhm.
and so are the Kansas City
Top of
Royals.
the Central, baby.
Oh man. Again, 8 in a row, 9-1 in their last 10.
Oh, and man, was I wrong about Seth Lugo?
Well,
Man, was I wrong about his?
you've got to think right now, if we're fast forwarding this, like
Yeah,
we're having all-star game starter conversations for the American League. Seth Lugo is at the top of this list.
has to be.
1.74 ERA, eight
Yeah,
and one. And they have a absolute superstar in Bobby Witt Jr.
yeah.
I mean, the Royals are playing great.
And can you believe they got him on the cheap for years to come, Bobby Witt? Can you believe that?
Yeah, that deal. Uh, Listen, but you know what? It's the brave method. It's we
I
can lock
agree.
you up long term,
I agree.
and it's going to be a little bit advantage us because the pay, but it's
Mhm.
advantage you because you know where you're going to be over the next X amount of years. But he's a superstar. Sal Perez is an ageless wonder.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, he's not falling off like too much, but you can tell he's in the twilight of his career.
Oh yeah,
And by the
but just
way,
the leadership.
Hall of Famer Salvador Perez, Hall of Famer,
By
putting
the
him.
way, these two teams play don't haven't played each other yet, which is the ironic thing. They play each other June 4th through the 6th in Cleveland for the first time. And there's only a game and a half separating them in the Central. So, man, and by the way, for Cleveland, I didn't know how good they'd be, especially after the Shane Bieber injury. When they get to that bullpen, it's almost lights out.
Mhm.
Emmanuel Clase at the back, and oh boy.
Yeah, no, Cleveland is. I guess I really shouldn't be that surprised, but I am shocked. I am shocked that they're playing this well. I didn't think they'd feel a good team, but you nailed it with the pitching. The hitting's better than I thought it was, and the Guardians are definitely a team that we have to watch out for a possible another big time postseason run. Uh, and they're always a thorn up the Yankees' ass. So then it's yeah, it's definitely good times in Cleveland. They're doing a very good job. I'm very happy to see that.
And then staying in the American League, there's the Astros. They're back, 11-5 in their last 16.
Yeah,
They've
pretty
moved
much.
within 3.5 games of the AL West.
Yeah, it's pretty much after the Yankee series. Like if you go back
That
to the
last
Yankees,
game that
yeah,
they won,
yeah.
that kind of was their tipping point, and they've gone off ever
Now
since.
they did lose one to the Tigers, and then of course they had a bad series in Anaheim. But Um, but yeah, I mean, just that Yankee win to salvage the sweep, I think was huge for them. It
Yeah,
woke
that
them
was their
up.
springboard.
They had to wake up eventually. I mean, this team is way too good. They're banged up, but they're way too good not to at least go on a run.
And,
And
and, and they're
they had
starting
them,
to get the pitching.
yeah.
They're starting to get the starting pitching from Justin Verlander. Hunter Brown was really good his last start. This team's got Bregman's gotten going for them offensively. Kyle Tucker's been fantastic. I think also there's the growing pain of not having Dusty
Yeah.
in the dugout. I think that had something to do with it, but they're playing great. They're 3.5 back of Seattle. On the other side of that, Texas is 2-8 in their last 10. They've dropped 6 in a row.
Ew, gross.
I mean that they have struggled mightily. And then, if you want to go through National League teams who are playing well, I mean the Phillies are The Phillies might be the best team in the National League.
How this Philly team does not have a World Series yet is absolutely staggering. It's staggering. This team is way too good.
Listen, and by the way, the top three in that rotation: Wheeler, Nola, Ranger, Suarez.
Mhm.
Ooh. Talk about shocking starts. Right. Think about the All Star game for a second. The All Star game starting pitchers at the moment could be Ranger, Suarez, and Seth Lugo. No one had that on their bingo cards.
Yeah, definitely Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler, you can argue Zach Wheeler should have like at least four Cy Youngs. You know, like this guy's terrific, terrific every outing. You know,
Yeah, you're guaranteed 6 innings and 2 runs or less. It's a guarantee. Eight
you know, yeah,
strikeouts.
the Phillies one of those short term pitching teams where they're like, okay, just go here, get your quality, and then we'll have the bullpen deal with the rest of it. Like
And by the way, bullpen doesn't even have to be that great because our offense is freaking loaded.
exactly.
Schwarber, Harper, Real Muto.
Only
By the way,
they
Trey
found a
Turner's.
spot for Reese Hoskins that's even bigger. So it's
But
like,
by the way, Alec Bohm's hitting 330 or whatever he's hitting.
yeah. Oh my
Oh man.
How
Uh
how this team does not have a World Series is beyond.
yeah.
Beyond.
The Cardinals are 8-2 in their last 10. Listen, Leafs, I've said it before. Until Paul Goldschmidt gets hot, I'm not believing in the Cardinals.
But it's a good sign that they're winning games. I know they're
They
not
are. They are winning games.
they're winning games, not the greatest competition, but they're winning games.
Well, they beat the Cubs last night, so there
Yeah,
you
I
go.
mean, and then that's a big deal. That to me is a big deal. So, you know, you have to start looking at it from a different point of view. But I mean, you're dead on though. Paul Goldschmidt really has to step up.
You think that's the guy they need. But you're right in the sense of they stepped up in competition. They swept the Orioles. They won the first game against the Cubs. Game two's tonight. That's the Sunday night game. And then they end the month. They go to Cincinnati. The Reds haven't played great. And they go to Philly over next weekend. That's massive. But Philly, we know, is a different animal.
Yeah, I mean, if even if the Cardinals like split in those next few games, that's a
Yeah.
pretty good run that they
Yeah.
have. That's a pretty good stretch that they have there. You know, those are really tough teams.
Yeah. So it's kind of where we're looking at the standings. Some big series this week on this week of Memorial Day. Um, I think this is the first time, I could be wrong, but Craig Counsell and the Cubs go to Milwaukee to play the Brewers. First of all, and if it is the first time, I hope Brewers fans give Craig Counsell a very nice round of applause and great tribute. Uh, I thought he was fantastic there, despite never winning a World Series. But
Yeah, I
listen,
mean the Brewers. I mean they had Yelich, but like you know the Brewers didn't really do much, but they were still very competitive and still very much in the playoff conversation every single year. Craig Counsell was man, so that I have to at least acknowledge he's in a better situation with the Cubs, but like you know it's
yeah, and
still,
these are the
still a
top
good
two
moment.
teams right now in the NL Central, so it's a big series in Milwaukee. So Cubs, Brewers. Uh, then we get the Royals and the Twins. Talk about how well the Royals are playing. The Twins went into Cleveland last week and got swept. They kind of bounced back since
Yeah.
beating up on the Nationals and the Rangers, but
Yeah, but that Yankees series was really tough for them because they were on a roll and they get swept. I mean, you can't really expect much after that. That just hurts your confidence. You
well,
know,
the Yankees have owned the Twins really in my lifetime.
I
So,
know. And that's the funny part too.
and then get beat by the Yankees, then they go to Cleveland, and Cleveland smacks them around for three.
Yeah.
Then they go to play a Nats team. By the way, the Nationals aren't
Mhm.
terrible. They are playing very
Yeah.
hard for Davey Martinez, and they play well.
Mhm.
But they've bounced back, and they've beaten up on Texas so far this weekend. Texas has their own issues, but speaking of Texas, World Series rematch, they host the Diamondbacks. And both teams are kind of off the slower starts, but the Diamondbacks are healthier than the Rangers, especially in the rotation. But listen, this Texas offense at home could do damage.
They can do damage, but they haven't done so of late. And
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing is getting the hitting back on track and the pitching back on track. Because when you're on a losing streak or on a losing stretch, that it's never a flip of a switch. You know, like
And the
something has to go right. Something has to just go your way.
and the benefit for them though, and there's two benefits. One, Bruce Bochy, been there, done that. Two, more of a veteran club, veteran leadership club. Uh, so guys who've been there, been around, they'll turn around, especially once they get some of these injured pitchers back, especially Nathan Eovaldi, mainly for my fantasy team, but that's not really why I say it, but digress. Stay in the ALS. We brought up the Astros earlier. They're 3.5 back entering today. They go to Seattle to play the first place Mariners.
Seattle's had a rough series in DC. They've had
Yeah.
a rough one in DC.
Well, also they had that series with the Yankees. They split it,
Yeah,
and
they
then
should have swept them. They should have swept the Yankees. But of course, you can't stop Judge and Soto and all them.
well, listen. Here's the thing about Seattle. They can pitch with the best of them. They're starting pitching. I love that rotation
Yeah,
so much.
just
They
I
don't get enough
underestimated them.
offense.
I underestimated them just like I underestimated the Guardians. I feel like the Mariners are so much better than I thought they were. And, for that, I really have to acknowledge that, maybe my preseason predictions on this team and how I read them was, entirely wrong. But no, man, my issue is, when you're facing a team like the Nationals who are just starting to come up,
Mhm.
like when you lose to them, that hurts. That's not very good. So that's my big issue with the Mariners, that even though they're playing well, they also lose some really bad games.
Yeah.
When you're facing a team like the Astros who can pounce at you anytime.
They
It,
will
it,
take advantage of those
yeah.
mistakes. And by the way, if the Astros find a way to win today against the A's, Mariners lose, that lead shrinks to 2.5. The Astros could be in first place if they win that series.
And
And despite
they
all the stuff,
you
despite
know
everything we've said about,
when the Astros get to first place, they ain't giving that shit up. You know that.
no, no,
Come on now.
Houston, we have liftoff.
Like, come on now. And this is why I wasn't worried about the Astros.
Yeah.
I look, I struggling. It was terrible. By the way, I have to do something for our outside league. But yeah, like we the Astros, you can't worry so much about them because at the end of the day, the team is good. We can't forget that the team is good.
Yeah, they've been there, done that.
You know,
All right. Yeah, and the last one we got, the Phillies go to San Francisco and play the Giants. Giants are playing very good baseball right now. We talked about the Phillies earlier. That should be a well pitched series. Now, the break for the Phillies is they'll avoid Logan Webb. He pitches today against the Mets. Mets luck. And but for the Giants, this Philly offense is just relentless. So that should be a fun series there in San Francisco. Oh boy. All right. Again, Dan, unless there's anything else, that'll do for this edition of Batter Up here on the Sports Insane Network, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. Great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Follow us on the socials, on Facebook at the Sports Insanity Network. We're also on Twitter. Sorry, Lonnie, it's not X. At S Insanity Real. I don't know what Mark's got going at the dugout, so I can't comment on that at the moment. But again, happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Happy birthday to the old ops guy.
Yep. Sending
And
love
we'll
to him
talk.
and his family.
Go ahead. What?
I'm just saying, I sent a lot of love to him and his family today.
Yeah.
He deserved it.
Nothing but love. All right. We'll talk to y'all next week.